Well, hello there, and welcome back to another fun-filled episode of Kimmell and Cox, your source for all things entertainment. I'm Keith Cox. I'm joined, as always, as I am every week, by my good friend Dylan Kimmell.
Hello, everyone.
And today we are getting into the second film in the Back to the Future franchise, one of our favorite film franchises of all time.
Great Scott!
Oh, this is heavy. Yeah, so the second film, definitely the first one stands up as I think my favorite in the franchise. But the second one has a lot to offer too, as we'll get into, just because there's so much going on.
There is a lot going on. Here's the funny thing too that I found out. Like I was looking at the run times of this. There's so much packed into part two, yet it's shorter than.
Yeah, it's about 10 minutes shorter than the first film. But
you wouldn't have thought that watching it, honestly. Yeah. There's so much packed into just this one little, because they travel through time several times in the second one.
Yes, and this is something that they come at it from a completely different point of view, which is something that a lot of other movies hadn't really done. So. But yeah, certainly a lot of stuff, crammed into this movie, and we're going to try to unpack it all. But part two was released on November 22nd, 1989, so a little over 4 years since the first movie. And although the movie is still supposed to be set in 1985, so that timeline hasn't changed, even though everybody's gotten a little bit older.
Yeah,
they're supposed to be the same age.
I was watching like a side by side of the beginning part, because it starts off right where the last one.
Right.
But they reshot it because one, they had a different actor. Two, everyone got a little bit older, and you can actually see some of the differences there.
Oh yeah,
when you put
it side by side. Yeah.
Like Marty's hair is different. And some of the shots are just a little bit, different.
Yeah, but this
you wouldn't be able to tell if you were just watching them.
No, you really wouldn't. But the second installment was again written by Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale and directed by Robert Zemeckis, which is the great thing about these movies. I think sometimes when you have sequels that are either written or directed by different people, they often have a different feel to them. So I like it when you have the same crew, especially writers and directors involved, because you have that consistency between movies. I
mean, it's funny because when it is the same director, you do usually get the same feel with the movie. There is one trilogy though that this is off topic, but it just kind of baffles me on that one. Men in Black is directed by the same director all three times. But all three of them...
But they all feel a little bit different.
Like, does he have, like, an issue with... does that director have, like, an issue with his identity or something?
Who knows, really?
But anyways...
But we have a lot of returning cast for this one. The film, again, stars Michael J. Fox as Marty McFly, and Christopher Lloyd as Doc Brown. Leah Thompson is back as Lorraine McFly, Tom Wilson as Biff. We have Elizabeth Shue as Jennifer Parker, Marty's girlfriend from the first movie. So this is one of those casting changes that we were talking about.
Now was that like a scheduling conflict with her?
I believe it was. I think she wasn't available by the time they did the second film. You also have James Tolkien back as Principal Strickland, and this time we have Jeffrey Weissman as George McFly. And so
now that's an interesting story. Why in the world is it not Crispin Glover?
Yeah. So getting into that a little bit, the deal with Crispin Glover was basically by the time they decided they wanted to do a second movie, the first one was so popular. I mean, it was just like a mega success and made so much money at the box office. Crispin Glover decided he wanted a little bit more of a piece of that, and he wanted to be paid more to play George McFly than he got paid in the first movie. he wanted to have more of a salary that was in line with what Michael J. Fox was getting paid. Michael J. Fox is, the star. He's the title. Basically, you have the actors' names who are kind of like above the title, and then you have the ones that are like below the title. And characters like George McFly, they're significant, in the movie, but they don't necessarily get like that, that top billing, and so they couldn't come to an agreement with the studio on his salary, and so they're like, looking at back on it and seeing interviews with him and everything. I think he should have just been happy to be invited back, and because these were very successful movies, and obviously he was always going to be remembered for that role. And just if he had done that second movie, I can only imagine that it would have gotten better for him, and probably would have opened up opportunities for even more roles. So I think maybe he got, and it happens with actors, maybe he got just a little bit too greedy, on that. But needless to say, they decided, they didn't want to work with him again, and so they replaced him with Jeffrey Wiseman. They put makeup on him and prosthetics, like they put like a nose piece on him to make his nose look a little bit longer, trying to make him look as much like Crispin Glover as possible. And then he had the voice down, the George McFly, voice, and
that did result in Crispin Glover suing them actually,
yes,
because they were using his likeness and everything.
Pretty much, even though it was a different actor, they were trying to make the actor look like him, and so he thought, you guys are basically using my face without using my face.
I watched an interview with him recently, just last night, and he was talking about that whole thing, and he hated the performance given by this actor.
Yeah, but he really wasn't in that many scenes. I mean,
there's not too many scenes that
they tried to sort of put the camera in positions where you couldn't clearly see his face.
This was honestly one of the first movies where they used another person's likeness, and then now you start to get the whole you can't use the actor's likeness after this movie. That's what brought that up.
Yeah, that kind of kicked off set a precedent, for future movies. But they used this device when Marty and Doc travel into the future, where George is hanging upside down from this contraption because he's throwing his back out playing golf. And
he's upside down.
Yeah, he's hanging upside down the whole time. This device is carrying him through the room, but he's hanging upside down. And they did that because when he's hanging upside down, you really can't tell that it's not Crispin Glover. And when he's doing the voice and everything, and he's got the mannerisms down, I think a lot of people probably didn't realize that they had switched actors. Now,
the interesting thing, though, is that as the old man version of George McFly, the actor portrays him more so like he did in the young version of George McFly. But in the very end of the first movie, he's more proper and
he's got a different attitude about him.
It kind of reverted back to that nerdy version.
But now, as far as the character of Jennifer is concerned, now that was a little bit more of a noticeable change. Elizabeth Shue is a good actress, and you kind of felt sorry for her in this movie a little bit, because they were sort of forced to put Jennifer in the movie, because if you remember the ending of the first Back to the Future, where Doc comes back and comes screaming into Marty's driveway, and Marty and Jennifer are standing there, and and he's like, "Marty, you've got to come back with me, Back to the Future." And Marty's like, he's like, "Why? What happens in the future?" He's like, more or less like something something happened to us, and Doc tells them that, no, they're fine, but there's a problem with Marty's kids. It's like, it's your kids, Marty. Something's got to be done about your kids.
The funny thing is that Christopher Lloyd kind of pauses in that. It's only in the second one. He doesn't do it in the first one, but he kind of pauses there when he asks, "What do we become jerks or something?" He's like, let me think on that.
but that was the gag. There was they pull out onto the street and Marty's like, it's like, Doc, you better back up. We don't have enough road to get up to 88. And he's like, roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads. And then the tires fold down on the DeLorean and it lifts up and takes off and starts flying. And that whole ending was supposed to be a joke. There was never any plans to do any more Back to the Future movies. There was not supposed to be a sequel. But because of that ending, audiences automatically assumed that there was going to be another one, because it did, the way they left it, it did seem like there was more to do. People were like, well, they wanted to see him go into the future, like what happened. So Robert Zemeckis talked about that, and years later when they did decide to do a second movie, he's like, if we had known then, if we had plans to do a sequel, we never would have put Marty's girlfriend in the car with him and Doc, because it posed a problem for them, because then it forced them to put her in the second movie, and they really didn't have anything much for her to do. So they had to write her into the script and figure out how she would be involved in the plot. And unfortunately, she spent most of the movie unconscious.
Doc Brown, he uses some sort of device or whatever to kind of make her fall asleep.
Yeah, it's like a sleep inducer, and so he knocks her out to get her out of the way, because the whole plot of the second movie is Marty's son, Marty Jr., has gotten himself into some serious trouble. He becomes involved with this gang, which is led by Griff Tannen, who is the grandson of Biff Tannen. And so they go into the future to hopefully prevent Marty's son from being thrown in jail for committing robbery. But as always in a Back to the Future movie, it never goes as smoothly as it's supposed to. And Marty runs into...
This is what they're trying to prevent. Yes. Right there.
And that is a replica of the newspaper that was used in the second movie.
And it was actually released the day of the actual event.
Yeah.
I mean, this was actually released October 22nd, 2015. This movie is set, this particular time period is set October 22nd, 2015. Because of that, they released this version specifically for that day. And I had to get myself a copy of that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was about $15 when it was released. But $15, and it's probably...
That's well worth the investment there. Yeah. And I'm actually wearing a replica of the lenticular hat that Marty's son wears, and also Marty in the movie, because Marty basically pretends to be his son in order to say no to Griff's proposition. This actually was a Diamond Select exclusive. Diamond Select is actually a toy company, but they released these hats. Actually, there was a whole lot of stuff that came out for the 30th. It was the 30th anniversary of the day that Doc and Marty went into the future, which was October 21st, 2015. So they released all this special memorabilia to commemorate that event, that fictional event. But these hats actually came out a few years prior to that, so I had to pick up one. And also, forgot to mention this in the last episode, but
the pins and
the jacket and everything that I was wearing, the replica jacket.
I think that was my fault. I cut him off.
But no, it's all right. If anybody if you're a huge Back to the Future fan like we are, and if you want to get some replica Marty attire for yourself, you can go to maxcady.com. That's maxcady.com. That name, Max Cady, actually comes from a character that Robert De Niro played in the movie Cape Fear. But this website, they're overseas somewhere, but they specialize in replica movie clothing, particularly jackets and stuff like that. But they also have other clothing pieces as well. So, like for Marty McFly, you can get the denim jacket, you can get the puffy orange vest. Which I got both of those items from there. But now they actually have a few more items that they've added. You can get the 3 pins that Marty wears on his jacket. I got mine from a couple different places. I think I got a couple of them on Etsy, and another one came from eBay or something. But now they actually sell all the pins in one place there. And you can also get a replica of Marty's backpack from the first movie. So so that wasn't available back then. It's pricey, so you're going to pay a pretty penny for it. I think the jacket was like $250, and the vest was like $200. It's pretty crazy, but I mean it's spot on. I mean you can't get any more accurate.
This is the clothing from the first movie, not the second one.
Yes.
Have they ever released the jacket from the second one?
You can find it. That's that's one thing I wish I had is the self-drying jacket and the.
It probably doesn't actually work that way, but
the power lacing sneakers, the Nikes from the second movie. But all that stuff is available. Nike actually released the sneakers, the replica sneakers, to commemorate the 30th anniversary of.
Now the truth is, are they truly self-lacing?
No, they're not.
I didn't.
But
think
they look just like the sneakers from the movie.
It's probably a good thing they're not self-lacing. We don't need any more lazy people.
No.
Tie your own shoes.
Yeah. And the jacket, I think you can find some pretty good replica jackets on eBay. I don't know if there's a company specifically that manufactures them now, but I know I did see some a while back on eBay. Again, a little on the expensive side, but if you're really a true fan, I mean, you can't beat it, and it goes over so great at costume parties and things like that. Because I'm all about authenticity myself. So if something is not like doesn't look accurate to me, I kind of have an issue with it. But there's plenty of good homemade costumes out there too, and. Some of that stuff you just kind of have to piece together a little bit at a time, like on your own, just to get the right look. But anyway, just wanted to mention that in case anybody's thinking about, like if they've always wanted to dress up as Marty for Halloween or whatever it is, then that's a place where you can go to get a lot of that stuff. And you can also get the classic Nike sneakers from the first movie, which is it was. Nike Bruin was actually the model of shoe, and again, Nike released like a limited number of those shoes in 2015, and I was lucky enough to get a pair. I couldn't get a pair like when they released them. There was only like one Nike store in New York that was selling these, and they announced like the day and time that they were going to put them on sale, and literally like as soon as they went on there, it's like I was waiting on my computer, and as soon as I went on the website, like they were already sold out. And I think what it wasn't, that was the thing that kind of made me mad, is that it wasn't even like fans necessarily that were buying the shoes. It was people buying them to resell them.
Of course.
So I'm like, you're keeping them out of the hands of fans just so you can make profit off.
Yeah, I hate that. That was like the big thing about I mean, it's happened recently also with the video game systems like PS5 and Xbox, the newer generation ones. Like people will do that. They will. I don't like that. That is just.
There should be a limit. There should place a limit, like only one pair per customer or something like that, so they can avoid things like that. And people buying them
special
in bulk
links,
and reselling them.
Specifically, or kind of isolate. Like, what about the captchas? They need to do the captcha thing.
Yeah, it really should. Because that's a good way to prevent. Just a good security measure to prevent people from doing things like that.
Yeah.
And, prove to make sure they are who they say they are. But yeah, so I ended up and it worked because I had to. I fell victim to that. It's like if I really wanted the shoes, I ended up having to get them on eBay from a private seller and paid twice what they were retailing for. I think originally they were retailing for $150, which was already pretty expensive. But I ended up having to pay $300 for them. But to me, it was worth it because I'd always wanted those shoes. I'd always wanted a pair of those shoes. They're so simplistic in design, but I just always loved to look at them, and it really completes the outfit if you're dressing up with Marty. Oh, and you can get the shirt too. I forgot about that. Yes. You can get his black and white checkered shirt on that same website, maxcady.com. But anyway, so that was getting a little bit off topic there, but.
Off topic, but on topic.
Yes. Yes. Still relevant.